Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I am Coach Sherry, and this is part of my podcast series, Real Talk with Coach Sherry. Tonight's topic is going to be around: is your life off target? As a coach, I do career coaching, marketing coaching, business coaching. I hear a lot of my clients talking about how they feel like they are off balance, that they are off target, they're not hitting their targets. And that's one of the reasons why they reach out to me. And so I wanted to share this information with you. This is part of my series, part of what I do, but just giving you a snapshot so that as you start your new week, because today is May 4th, it's Sunday evening, and we start to get our minds from the weekend vibe into the work week vibe. And so I want you to have some nuggets, some action steps, some things to consider for your work week. It's never a bad time to start over. It's never a bad time to rebrand. It's always possible. So why not now? And so I'm hopeful that this information that I share with you on Sunday nights will be that for you, will get you jump started for your week. Um, it's really interesting because I can't believe I have scheduled this for 8 p.m. Now, I used to be on a blog sports talk radio show where my slot time was Sunday nights at 9 p.m. And you would think that a time slot that late, you would always have availability. You think, okay, maybe I do go away on weekends. But come Sunday evening around 5 or 6, I'm typically home winding things down, prepping for the next week or what have you. But when I was on that blog spot sports radio show, and I did it for almost 2 years, let me tell you, we used to travel a lot and we still do, but it was like rushing, that feeling of trying to get back by 9 o'clock. Because when you do a blog spot, or let me see, what would they call it? I forget. It was a sports radio show, and it was, I had a whole dashboard that I had to manage, commercials I had to input, but you had to be there. You couldn't do it on your phone. You had to be in front of your whole desktop computer situation because you had to filter. I always had guest speakers, and we would have that conversation. I could receive phone calls or text messages via the dashboard. So it was a lot to manage. So I needed to be home in time to set up. And inevitably, I felt like I was always rushing. And so, same thing with today. So, this is my first 8 p.m. podcast on a Sunday night. And I'm thinking, yeah, by 8 o'clock, I should be well into just winding down, no problem. But I literally just got home about 15 minutes ago from being out and about, enjoying this beautiful day. And I hope you all enjoyed your beautiful Sunday as well. It was a great weekend. We did have rain yesterday towards the latter part of the day, but all overall, it has been a great weekend. I see some people have entered the building. Let me see. Loving Myself is here. Hello to you. It's been a while. Great to see you. I hope things are going well with you. I see Lisa J. Stocks is in the building, number 7. Listen, Lisa, I had shared your video on my community wall as well as with my young adult children. Now, my youngest is in finance. She's in that realm of, that's her career. And you know what? I should have you on as a guest speaker, because what you were talking about is all about financial literacy, sharing what works for you, what is possible for everyone, just taking those baby steps. But when my daughter was in college, Lisa, she was part of an organization called ALT Finance. And if you're not familiar with them, I hope that you will look them up. But it's an organization. It's structured to support students at HBCUs, and it's a stipend they receive, and just the exposure. They meet with them on a weekly basis virtually. They take them and fly them out to different locations a couple of times during the year to major hubs: New York, LA, Philly, DC, and they expose them to people doing big things in finance, so that they can understand the process, the business, the lifestyle. They give them that lifestyle. Like when they went to LA, they went to a Lakers game, sat in the owner's box. They go and take them to play golf. It's the conversations, it's the connection, it's the increase of social capital. And it has been a tremendous experience for my daughter. She graduated from Spelman College last year. Her major was economics, but because of her exposure to finance, it put her into that career path, onto that career path. So I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, but they they are doing a phenomenal job. I believe they take about 40 students per cohort, and my daughter was in it for 2 years. They also helped them secure tremendous internships in the summer. Just really, really a great, great thing. So I did share it with my young adult children, and I know they're going to check it out. I told my daughter, I said, when you go and you look at her video, let her know that, Coach Sherry sent you and that you're my daughter. And she looked at me, she was like, I doubt if I'm going to do that. So, um, you know how young people can be, but she's definitely going to check it out. All right. So, is your life off target? For my podcast, especially when they're set up like this, I highly encourage you to get your pen and paper ready, take down notes, share this out, share it with your circle, anyone that you feel is is kind of not really sure where they're pointing their arrow. You know, a lot of times people just are shooting their shot and they're shooting it in the wrong basket. And that's not making them win. And then it gets them more discouraged, takes them down that rabbit hole of woe is me, depression, paralyzing them from moving forward. And so that's why it's important to make sure that you're on target. I know back in the day when I first started teaching adults and getting them prepared for the workforce, getting them workplace ready. Some of them were entering the workforce for the first time. Some have been in it, but not in the right area for a long time. Some were just pivoting. They were in various areas or stages of their career experience. And sometimes, especially if they were unemployed or underemployed, they would just always say, well, Miss Sherry, I just want a job, any job. I'm just shooting my shot. I'm just, I don't have a target. Because I would ask them, well, what area are you looking into? And they were like, anything that will pay my bills. And I get that. That's a lot of people, most people, And so I would tell them, though, you can take anything, but you still need to be targeted, because maybe the first thing that comes that will support you for the right now will be just what you need, but you still need to have in mind what you are going to target. And eventually, just through the attraction, the law of attraction, it will come to you. And so you want to craft your resume, you want to posture yourself, put yourself in those right places, have your mind thinking about what it is you really want to target. Because I don't know about you, but back in the day when I was in YMCA camps as a young child, the day camps especially, and they would take you to kind of like a forest or something. That's where the campsite was, and you would do a variety of things. And one of the things that we did was archery. And they always tell you, you have to focus on the target. Where is the target? You have to really think, almost visualize yourself pulling back that bow so that arrow, when it's released, will hit that target. You can't look up in the sky, look at the trees, look on the side. No, you're focused on that target. So if you don't know what your target is, how are you going to hit it? If you are just saying, I'm just trying to shoot this arrow and whatever it hits, come what may, that's what I'll take, then that's what you'll get. You'll never hit the center. You'll never hit the target. So it's always important to know what your target is. One of the things that I've would always do as a marketing coach for businesses is to make sure that the business knows who their target market is. Yes, your item, your service, product, or whatever can be for everyone, possibly. But when you are proposing or putting together your marketing plan, you have to have a target audience. So who is that? Who are they? What do they do? What do they like to do? Where do they vacation? What type of books do they read? What type of work are they doing? Are they young, old? What's their age? Education levels? You need to know all of those things so that your marketing for your product or service is targeted to them. And some people feel like when you do something like that, it's putting you or your product into a pigeonhole. Like, well, no, what I do is for everyone. And that's cool. But in the back of your mind, you have to know who it's for. That's like even with my workforce development programs. I developed them with a person between the ages of 18 to 27 in mind. That's how I developed them. However, I have people in there as old as 65, 70 years old, and that's fine, and everything in between. I want to say the average age is about between 28 and 35, and that's fine. But as I'm crafting it, I have to think of an age group and keep that age group in mind. So when I am marketing it, I have one voice, and it's one voice across the board for my entire team. I see Monique is in the building. Hello to you. And I keep forgetting that with this, I can put you up there. So Loving Myself came in first. Hello. Lisa Stocks came in. And now we have Monique. Thank you all for tuning in. So let's get started. Let me pull up my notes so that I can put it up on the screen for you as I go through. Now, again, living off target, it really means that you're not hitting the goals or the outcomes that you intended. So we are in our second quarter of this new year, 2025. If you go by the fiscal year, you're in the last quarter. So you should have had some goals that you had considered that you wanted to accomplish. And I'm just curious, you can leave it in the chat. If you're watching this in a replay, leave me a comment. How are you doing with achieving those goals that you set forth for 2025? Even FY25. So we're in 2025, but we're in the last quarter of FY25. How are you with targeting those goals? Have you been able to achieve them? Have they been successful? Do you feel that you're on course? If not, this is definitely the the podcast for you. Real life, real issues, real talk. All right. So you could be missing that bullseye, and a lot of people are. Sometimes you have your goals, but one of them may just kind of veer you off so far until you can't focus on those others, but you have to reel it back in. And so that's also dealing with time management. I've heard so many people here lately talking about work life balance and how that's not a real thing anymore. And not in the traditional format of work life balance, because when you think about balance, you think that on both sides it's equal, that you have the same amount of time. But of course, as we know, you don't. Sometimes work may require more time, and you have to lighten up on the life side. And then sometimes the life may be a little heavier, and you have to lighten up on the work side. And that's the thing, being flexible enough to pivot and understand that you still have to deal with your life, but maybe it has to be, you have to have different accommodations, because work, you might be working on a big project or something that's taking up a lot more of your time. And so then that balance just looks a little different, but it's still a balance nevertheless. So always keep that in mind. So in life, you can feel like you're being thrown off course. You might feel off centered or not living in alignment with your values and your aspirations. So when that happens, you're not living balance. It doesn't matter if something's heavier or not. It means that you're really trying to do it all in the same capacity. And so you have to recognize what your capabilities are, and that you can't always do everything with the same rigor. You have to pull back. And that doesn't mean that you're less than because you're pulling back. It just means that that you have to stay in alignment. And it also shows up as dissatisfaction, lack of progress, or a feeling that you're not where you want to be in areas like your career relationships, your health, or your personal growth. When you start to feel like, oh my goodness, like I'm not going anywhere, I'm not doing anything, I don't see any improvement. I hear this a lot, especially with career coaching. People in their careers are feeling like I've been doing this for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, the same position. And I'm always really low key, I'm shocked when a person has stayed in the same occupation, same title, same role for more than 10 years. Because even if your company, your job does not pivot you, does not enhance you or promote you, you have the capability of implementing new things that will authentically, organically pivot your career. And that's something that I share with them. It's like, listen, you are doing some different things. First of all, you didn't even recognize it because your resume is not updated. This is why it's important to update your resume every 6 months, because you will have done new things. You will have learned new things, maybe acquired new credentials that will qualify you to have changed your title. But because you just took all of that for granted and you just keep moving forward without pausing for a second to recognize the great things that you have just accomplished, then you will feel like you're stuck. You will feel dissatisfied. That's why it's so important to reflect and really see all the things that you have done and give your own self a pat on the back if no one else will, and tell yourself, great job, listen, you did that, that's awesome, that's dope. And you'll find that you will have more satisfaction in your day to day. You're not waiting for that person, that human, to give you those accolades, to give you that level up. You already know you're leveled up because of the new things that you know and that you're doing. Okay, so in this podcast, all right, we're going to cover 7 steps to assist you with getting back on target. All right, and 7 is the number of completion. So we're going to have these 7 steps. As we go through it, I will jump back into the chat to see if you have any input, any questions, comments. And I also have pictures aligned with each of those 7, and I'll be sharing those. Before I begin, I want to see who else. I see Black Guns and Gardens has jumped in. Hello to you. Welcome in. Hope things are going well with you. Listen, I went to the the farmers market again today. Y'all, I'm going to do a short. I don't know if you knew this, but I eat a banana just about every day. Potassium is really good, especially since I have a heart challenge. I always try to keep potassium in my diet. And I learned today that the bananas, the typical bananas that you will see in the store, you'll even see them at the farmer's market, are not good. They have GMO. They're made with GMO. They are, you know, they're not grown in many instances. And I should have videotaped the man that was sharing that information with us, because he really broke it down how every 5 years they have to change the strand of the banana so that it doesn't do something. But apparently a lot of people, especially in America, have been getting sick from them. And so he recommended this other banana. It's a smaller banana and it's from, oh, I can't recall where it's from, but it's not from America, but it's a smaller banana that does have the seeds. I didn't even know bananas had seeds. I found that to be very interesting. I don't know if, especially because Black Guns and Gardens is a gardener, he has a farm, he does an amazing job. I didn't know if you knew about that, but I found that to be very interesting. All right, so let's go to the first one, and that is to do a self assessment. And let me remove my logo from up there so it's giving you a clean snapshot of this information. So, a self assessment, you want to reflect on where you are and why you're off target. You want to really just take time to honestly evaluate where you are versus where you want to be. A lot of people focus on moving forward. Oh, I got to do this, I'm doing that. But where are you right now with that? Where are you personally? Are you emotionally prepared? Are you physically prepared? Are you mentally prepared? So ask yourself, what areas of your life feel off track and why, when you're trying to do that assessment. Before you move forward, you don't want to move forward with already some squeaky wheels. You don't want to move forward with needing an oil change. Think about it as a road trip. You want to check your car before you hit the road. And that's how you want to check yourself before you hit that next thing, that next big thing, and figure out, okay, what do I need to do to get back on track? What areas of my life do need some attending to? And journal that process, journal. And even a SWOT analysis, I love providing SWOT analysis and walking through that process with clients, because you're really identifying your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and digging deep and really thinking about what they are. What problem are you solving? What opportunities are out there for you to implement what you have to do? What opportunities are out there that is waiting for you because you're going to add value to it? What are you really good at? Have you sat down and thought about that? And you have to do that periodically, because things that you are great at can change often, especially as you learn new skills and have different experiences. What are you weak in? What weaknesses do you have? Because those weaknesses are important to understand. You don't want to just brush them under the carpet. You need to develop them, but at the same time, never forget your strengths. Because some people, they focus so much on their weaknesses until their strengths become weak too. So you definitely want to make sure you're taking all that into consideration. What are your threats? Who are your competition? Is it financial? Is it someone? It could be a personal threat. You don't have the time, you don't have the support. What are those threats, and how can you make those changes so that they aren't a threat anymore? How can you find more support? Especially, I find clients that have younger children, that's a real challenge sometimes. Maybe their partners aren't supportive, but maybe they're not supportive because you haven't truly communicated what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Communication is huge. A lot of times people just assume that the person they're with, it could be personal relationship or even professional relationship, knows what they want. Oh, well, they see me getting ready, so they know that I'm getting ready to go somewhere, or they know I've been here for so long, so they should know that I want to be promoted. No, you cannot assume any of those things. It's important to communicate them for sure. And if we're talking about your career and what you need to communicate, I recommend, if you have your yearly review, your quarterly or bi-yearly review, that you write it down, make it plain, not just for yourself, but whoever your supervisor, manager, director, whatever, and let them know what it is that you want to accomplish. Don't just let them set your goals. Also have what your goals are in mind, because I've worked with clients where they don't set their own goals. Their supervisor or manager sets their goals for them of what they think they need to accomplish. But you need to know exactly what you need to accomplish too. So you also want to, this will also help you clarify your current situation and challenges. That's why the assessment is so important. You want to know, like, okay, this is happening and I didn't even realize that that's a roadblock for me. That's a barrier. I need to do something different. What can I do? What resources are out there? This is when you start to look around and see what kind of support and resources are available to you. So, this part is dealing with your self assessment. The second one is reconnecting with your why. You need to reconnect with your why. And that is clarifying the purpose behind your goals. So you have your goals, but why is that your goal? Why is that important in your life right now? Remember, your goals are specific to you. So your goals can't be because of someone else's goals or because someone told you that should be your goal. You have to understand the why behind your goals. And lately, for me personally, my why has been my future self. I have a lot of whys, of course, for my goals, things that I want to accomplish or build upon. But I'm also considering my future self and what it's going to say, do, or think because of the things that I'm doing on today. Um, and when I think about my health, especially, I want my future self to look back and say, thank you for allowing me to be part of your why. My why is so that I can be healthy even years from now. My why is so that, you know, I'm setting myself up so that when I don't want to maybe do certain things, um, I'm already well known in the arena that I'm in. And so I don't have to market as much because people are really coming to me with what they need, being that attractor, to being that magnet. So identify what your why is. Is it your children? You want to build a better future. You know that maybe your children are getting ready to go to college or they're young still and you want to be better prepared for that time. Or your why may be that you want to be a homeowner, or just whatever it is. You need to understand that for yourself, so you want to reconnect with that, reminding yourself why your goals matter. A strong personal reason for your goals provides you with that motivation, as well as that resilience when you face setbacks. You will sometimes the road is not going to be smooth. It might have bumps in it. It might have barriers you have to go over or around, sometimes under. And when you get to those parts, when you really focus on your why, it it will make that challenge that much more easier to get through. If you don't understand your why, you'll turn away, you'll turn around, you'll give up. So that's why it helps you with that resilience. It helps to keep you motivated. And so I want you to write your whys down for all of your goals. It doesn't necessarily mean that your why is the same for all of your goals. So definitely understand what each of your whys are. Write down your reasons and revisit them regularly. So on a daily basis, I want you to read through your whys and stay inspired for sure. And the next is you want to set clear and achievable goals. So let me see, where is that? Hmm. You want to set clear and achievable goals. I'm trying to see where that is. See, not the prioritize one. See. Yes, this is it. All right. So you want to set clear and achievable goals, and that's by using the SMART goals. And I'm sure, especially if you've been through professional development, you've heard of SMART goals, even personal development, and you want to break them into small steps. So using the SMART goals framework, your goals should be specific. They shouldn't be so big and vague. Oh, I want to go on vacation. That's a lot. That's saying a lot. That's not talking about where you want to go, how you want to get there. They should be measurable. How long are you going to stay with, on that vacation? It should be achievable. So if you know that you're going to go on that vacation, how much money are you going to put aside? Do you have that extra money to put aside for it? It should be relevant. You're going there because you want to have rest, maybe because you want to visit a particular seventh wonder of the world, or go on your first cruise or go to the beach, whatever the case. And time bound, when do you want to do it by? Some people, they will say their goals, but they won't put a time frame on it, and then next thing you know, it's 5 years later and they still have not achieved their goal. So your goals should be taken in bite sizes, and I've actually created a journal for goal setting. For each quarter, you should have at least 3 goals per quarter, 2 professional and 1 personal. And you set that up in the beginning of the year. It could be, again, the calendar year, January to December, or the fiscal year, July 1st through June 30th. Either way, is you can start at any time. I have clients that are starting now with their goals for this last quarter, but this will be their first quarter of that goal setting. So don't think you have to wait until the end of the year or the beginning of the new year to start. A lot of times people put off what they could do today for tomorrow because they'll say, oh, I missed the deadline, I missed the date. When you're setting goals and being very intentional with it, there is no deadline. You can start at any time. It's just that your dates will be different. And that's fine too. But you definitely need to take them in bite sizes, and they need to be smart. So, absolutely. You want to break your big goals into smaller, more manageable steps to avoid becoming overwhelmed and make progress more tangible. A lot of times, people bite off more than they can chew, and that's literally and figuratively. And then they are done. They may choke, literally and figuratively on that big bite that they just took. So you want to be mindful of what you can absolutely handle. When I have clients that might be going back to school for a degree, a certification, or just a course, I always tell them before you, especially as adult learners, when you're working, you have family, I always tell them before you enroll, make sure you understand what's going on in your life. We jump head first into our goals and we don't consider what we're doing that time of the year in our life. So even if you do the 1 year, 12 week goal setting, which is, every quarter you have a new set of goals, three new sets of goals, you have to consider what you're doing in your life during that time. A lot of times we're talking about maybe going back to school, and I'm like, you might not want to take classes in the summer if you know you're going to be on a 2 week cruise with sketchy wi-fi where you might not be able to submit your work. If you know in the summer you might have that family reunion and you're going to be gone for a week and letting your hair down to enjoy your family, you're not going to think about your schoolwork. So, and if you want to have success in doing what you are setting out to do, think about what's going on in your life during that time. If you are, doing something where, you know, you set that goal, but you're not going to have time to accomplish it, then that's going to be something that's going to be more of a headache for you, that's going to make you feel like you are overwhelmed. And that's not what you want. That's when you start and stop. No, we want you to start, complete, and continue on for sure. All right. So the next one is about prioritizing. So, yep. So simplify and prioritize. All right. That's the next thing you want to do. You want to focus on what matters and remove distractions. Distractions can be people, places, or things. And your goals, your life, your targets, those are yours. Those are no one else's. So you even can't get mad if someone is a distraction for you, because they don't know, and especially if you're not communicating to them about what you're doing. And even if you do, it's not up to them to care about what you have going on. So you have to know what your levels are, what you can handle, how much distractions you can handle, and maybe even put that in your calendar in moments when you can cut up, when you can let your hair down and talk for that minute or two, maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening. Just chop it up real quick if you have to. But you have to understand that distractors are the key to a disaster for sure. So you want to focus on what's most important. Let go of goals or activities that no longer serve you or align with your values. Oh my goodness, so many people have goals, lofty goals, that they may have set, like I said, years ago, and they still haven't gotten it. It's 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. And you have to really, again, with the assessment, the self assessment, determine, is this goal still something that is aligned with who I am today? Make sure that your goals, and that goes into the SMART goals, make sure they're relevant. Make sure that they just really are what you need. And if not, let it go. Let it go and be okay with it. Maybe share it with someone else so that that might be part of their goals, and you can let them know, you know what, that was one of my goals too, but you are definitely in a better position, maybe better age or whatever, to achieve it. And I hope that you do. If you need anything, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. It could be, starting a particular type of business. Sometimes you can age out of certain types of careers. I know someone who really is focused on, I forget, I think it's either the police officer or a firefighter. I can't remember which one she wants, but both of those, if you start and you're in that recruit class, it's very laborious. Like, you have to be in amazing shape. There's a lot of physical work that you have to do. And she was in her late 50s, like maybe her early 60s, but that had been a goal of hers, to make the academy. And she had been working out and everything. She hadn't made it up to that point. She tried twice and had not made it up to that point. But she was like, that's my goal. I really want to be, I can't remember if it was police or fire. And I'm looking at her like, at some point, I mean, I get it. We don't want to break or blow out anyone's candle, but at some point you have to really do a self-assessment. Is this the right thing for me right now? Or did that ship pass? So really be observant and understanding when it comes to that. You want to keep your routines and environment simple to reduce stress and improve your focus. If you have a lot going on, if you have clutter, I had a client, the whole coaching sessions that we had was about her decluttering her home and helping her walk through those baby steps to declutter her home so that she could have more clarity. And let me tell you, it took about 4 months for her to, really make a dent in everything. And once she did, it opened up so many opportunities for her. She was able to have better focus. She was able to have a clear head where new ideas were starting to pop up. She became more creative, innovative, and actually started a whole new career. She went back to school, got a certification. I connected her with a professional that was doing the work that she was considering moving into, and just things started to open up for her. So sometimes it could be that simple, as much as, decluttering your space, making sure that there's not a lot of distractions, things that just catch your attention and you just got to touch it. It might mean cutting off social media for a certain amount of hours during the day so you're not tempted to turn it on. Those games that are on your device, turning those off so that you're not distracted or tempted to turn them on to play. So those are some things you really need to consider about prioritizing what you have to do, putting that on the top of your list and not in the middle or at the bottom, but understanding that it's on your list for a reason, and to really adhere to it and honor yourself to complete it for sure. Okay, the next one is consistency. So you definitely want to take consistent small actions. So tracking your progress is going to be really important when you're trying to be consistent. And you want to start with one change or habit at a time. Consistency is more sustainable than trying to overwhelm everything or overhaul, make those big changes, everything at once. A lot of times people come in and they just want to do a Tasmanian devil in the room and just look, everything clear out, move it, take it, throw it. And that's not always a good thing. You really want it to be more sustainable and do one piece at a time. You want to track your progress to stay motivated and recognize your achievements, however small. That's when you say, you tap yourself on the back. Good job. That's why every day, write down what you accomplished for that day. I talk about your to-do list. Well, what about your done list? And looking at that list at the end of the week so you can look back and say you accomplished X, Y, and Z this week. There's so many times, you get to that Friday Eve on a Thursday, and you say, Tag, this was a long week, but I didn't even do anything. Oh, yeah, you did, but you overlooked it. And so consistently, you want to take those small actions and track your progress. That will keep you consistent. That will keep you motivated and moving forward as well. That is going to be so, so important. And number 6 is about, let me see, where is that? Yeah, here we go. Oh, you know what? Let me go into the into the chat. I was just talking. I'm sorry. So I see Black Guns and Gardens and saying for sure there is literally over. Oh, okay, he's talking about the bananas, 1,000 banana varieties. Some do suffer with genetic issues because of overproduction. And Mary's Life Journey is in the building. Welcome in. Thank you for tuning in. I meant to pause in between each of the sections, so I apologize for just keeping this moving. But this is some important stuff, and I hope that you are really taking the time out to write it down and seeing how you can implement it into your life right away. So, the next again is accountability. And with accountability, you want to have support and accountability. You want to seek encouragement and share your journey. Have that accountability partner. With my with my journal, I do have accountability sessions with clients to make sure that they're still on track, not to point the finger. Now, when you have an accountability partner or you're part of an accountability group, it's not about them pointing the finger at you. It's about you sharing what your successes were the week before, what you have coming up, what challenges you may be facing, what you may need support in. But it's you putting it out there so that you can move forward. And let me tell you, in February, March, let me see, March, I went to a conference at the beginning of March, March 10th through 11th. And all along for the past 3 years, I had been thinking about putting on a conference for a particular week. So it's registered apprenticeships. And each year I would do something for that week. And typically it would be a panel. And so, one year I had a panel with other professionals within the registered apprenticeship arena, the ones that, they were like SMEs, so they can talk about the process and all that with local businesses and employers. And the next year, I had a panel of former and current apprentices to talk about their experience in a registered apprenticeship. And last year, I had a panel with HR managers, mentors, and such for those apprentices to talk about their experience with it. So I was thinking, man, I would love to have all of those together for a conference. But what would that look like? And so when I went to the conference that the state puts on for it, I had just whispered it to the director for the state of North Carolina, and that was in March, March 10th and 11th. He said, "Go on the stage tomorrow." This is the next day. I told him that night, and the next day I met with him, and he said, "Go on the stage, and I want you to tell this whole room that this is what you're going to do," because they changed National Apprenticeship Week to April, from November to April. And this year they only put it for one day, which was on April 30th. It was just last week. And I said it out loud. I didn't know where I was going to hold it, how it was going to roll out, what the program was going to look like. And it happened on April 30th. It was 6 weeks later. And it was over 100 people there, maybe 120, 30 people from all across the state, 18 different municipalities. The governor's office had a representative there. It was tremendous. And accountability. So, me saying it out loud, the director, partners on my team, our consultant, they were all backing it up. Like, they knew, they heard it. I said it out loud, and so I had to keep it moving. And you have that. If you don't tell anyone, then you can easily say, you know what, never mind, this is going to be too big. We had it at a hotel, Embassy Suites. The people at the hotel were marvelous. Their customer service was extraordinary. The technology was perfect. Everything was great. The food, everything. um and so, you have to put it out there sometimes. I know a lot of times they say, don't tell people what you do, what you're going to move. But when you have that group and you call each other's accountability partner or my accountability group, they will hold you accountable. And if they don't, if they, just them knowing what you want to do is the accountability piece. So know that that is important to have. It really is. So you want to surround yourself when you're doing this with positive influencers. Like, people that are also doing things. You don't want to be the only one saying what you do. What are they doing as well? And you also need to have resources that help you stay on track. So it might be a planner, a particular type of planner like mine, or it might just be, a tracker that you just have, reminders on your computer, on your phone, to keep you on track. But you definitely want to have those positive influences in your life. If your circle is telling you always what you can't do, that, oh, that's too lofty, that's too huge, that's too big, they can't be in your accountability circle. And that's okay, because there's another circle for them. It's just not your accountability one. All right. So number 7 is about flexibility. So you need to be flexible and have self-compassion. You want to adapt, be adaptable as needed, and be patient with yourself. I always say give yourself grace. Don't beat yourself up, don't call yourself out your name. Be very positive with yourself. Make sure your inside voice is talking to you in an uplifting, high energy way. Your inside voice should not be telling you what you can't do, what you're not going to do. Oh, here we go again, I knew you couldn't do it. Your inside voice should not be saying any of those things to you. You need to adjust your goals and methods as needed. Sometimes you may have to pivot. That's why being flexible is so important. Some people get so strung out on just that one thing. It has to be exactly that way. But guess what? It may not work that way. And so you need to have the flexibility, be able to pivot enough that you can change directions. Life changes, and so can your approach. So thinking about different ways to look at it. I love having conversations, think tank sessions is what I call them, with others that may be doing something that I'm doing similar, or, something else on their own, whatever. But that I could just they could be my soundboard, and I'm talking them through things. They're sharing maybe some experiences that they've had with what I'm going through. And I'm considering it. I handle that feedback well. I may implement it, I may not. It just depends, but I receive it. And so being flexible is receiving that new information, that new support that you may get. Practice self compassion. Setbacks are normal, and getting back on target is a process. It's not a one time fix. You may find yourself trying to get back on target many times. Your vision may get blurry. When you're looking at that target and you have that bow in your hand with that arrow, you may at one point could see that target just as clear, but then maybe for whatever reason you were hot and sweat just started dripping down your face and you can't see as well. You have to wipe it. But give yourself grace and slow down and wipe it. Wipe your forehead so that that sweat is not dripping down. Be mindful of what's going on, be flexible. So that is what I have for you regarding staying on target. And it's important to understand that you can be on target. You don't have to flail around. You can absolutely hit your mark, but you have to know what that mark is and give yourself grace to know that it may take some time to get to that mark, but give yourself that time and give yourself a timeline as well. So, getting back on target is about realigning your actions with your values and your goals. So that's why that assessment is so important. Building sustainable habits and being persistent and compassionate. That will allow yourself to just do what you need to do throughout the journey. That will give yourself that encouragement, that push to do what you need throughout that journey. So being compassionate with yourself is so important. All right. I hope that you got all of those nuggets. Let me see in um the chat. I see Sassy is here. Hello to you. Thank you for tuning in and being here. I appreciate your support. Hope you are doing well. I'm going to come over and check. I know that you walked today, Sassy, so I'm going to come check it out for sure. And again, y'all, remember that you can get back on target. Don't get discouraged. Be encouraged and just reset. Have a reset. Let tonight, Sunday night, May 4th, 2025, be your reset so that when you enter this next week, this new week, that you will be refreshed, renewed, and self assured that you can live your life on target and no longer be off target. And if you so happen to slip off a little bit, give yourself grace, be compassionate with yourself because you can always become realigned. That's all I have for you today. And I appreciate you for rocking with me. For those of you that are new to the channel that just may have walked in, especially if this is on your replay, this channel is about workforce development, career coaching, entrepreneurship, real life, real issues, and real talk. And this is my podcast, Real Talk with Coach Sherry, where you'll find tools and things to keep you motivated, inspired, and transformed. Whenever you come into one of my podcasts or live, I highly recommend that you have your pen and paper ready because you will want to take some notes because I am dropping nuggets left and right for sure. But remember every day to practice. Practice every day. When you go in tomorrow, know that this is practice for you. This is an extended interview for you. You never know who's watching. Even while you're practicing, there might be someone that says, you know what, I need someone like that on my team because they are winning. They can win for me. And you just never know what opportunities lay out. So do your best every day. Show up. If for no one else, show up for your future self. But do it and do it well. So when you do get into that real game, when you get into that real game, you will always play to win. It's been my pleasure. And I see TWP Popcorn. He had jumped in. What's popping with you? Thanks for coming in. And I appreciate everyone that tuned in. We had Loving Myself, Lisa J. Stocks. We had Monique Powell. We have Black Guns and Gardens, Mary's Life Journey, Sassy, and TWP Popcorn. I appreciate you all for checking me out. And for those of you watching on the replay, you are greatly appreciated. Everyone, have a great rest of your evening, and I will see you later. Take care.